What if I told you your entire reality could shift, not tomorrow, not someday, but the moment you act as if this time is already yours? In this powerful lecture, discover how your assumption of already being the person you desire to be is the only doorway to change. Let these timeless teachings awaken your imagination and show you that what you seek is already yours. Now, all you must do is live from the end. Some years ago, I stood at a crossroads in my life. I had no visible means, no resources, and no clear path forward. I had left Barbados behind with a dream, but that dream appeared to waver in the fog of circumstance. I knew something had to change, but not out there. One night, I lay down on my bed and asked myself, what would I do if it were already mine? Not tomorrow, not after earning it, but now, time. I rose in imagination and lived as if I had already become what I sought. I acted as if this time was already mine. And soon it was. What I learned that night is what I now share with you. To act as if is not to pretend. It is to assume with such conviction that the outer world must conform, the outer follows the inner. The secret lies in acting from the state of the wish fulfilled, not toward it. The reason most fail to change is because they keep acting as if it's coming, rather than as if it's here. But when you act as if this time is already yours, you step out of time entirely. You collapse the waiting. You become the cause of what appears. This is not about forcing things. It is about aligning with the only truth, that what you assume with feeling is already fact. When you feel it real and remain faithful to that inner movement, the outer world has no choice but to mirror it. Every desire is a gift from the higher self, but it cannot be possessed through wishing. It must be embodied. To act as if means to walk, speak, and think from the place where the desire is already fulfilled. I tell you, your senses will lie. They will tempt you back into doubt, but persistence in the assumption will break the illusion. You are not what the world says you are. You are what you dare to claim yourself to be. When I walked the streets of New York without a dollar, I imagined myself elsewhere. I lived in the feeling of comfort, success, peace. And by remaining there in imagination, reality bent to meet me. That's not metaphor, that's law. To live in the end is the only way to bypass resistance. You must dwell in the state that matches your desire, not as a visitor, but as a resident. Let the state become more real than what you see. Let your inner world define your outer one. The key to this transformation is to assume it's already done. Feel the joy of it, the freedom of it, the peace of already having it. The mind may question, but the feeling, when accepted, creates the fact. This is how you act as if this time is yours. You stop reaching and start being. The law responds not to effort, but to identity. Change your self-concept and everything changes with it. Act as if, and you call the thing forth. When you begin to understand that assumption is creation, you step into the only real power you possess, the power to embody a reality before it becomes visible. And yet many continue to ask, how do I do this? How do I act as if when everything in my world tells me it's not so? The answer lies not in effort, but in identification. You do not need to convince the world. It is yourself you must convince. The outer is only a reflection of the inner. And if the mirror shows you something unwanted, you do not reach into the mirror to fix it. You change the face that is looking into it. To act as if this time is already yours is to release the craving for change and instead adopt the being of change. You do not need to beg or force your desire into being. You simply need to embody the state of its fulfillment. And that state is not somewhere you must travel to. It is within you, available in the now. It has always been within you, awaiting your conscious selection. You may have heard it said, fake it till you make it, but this principle is far deeper than imitation. It is not about pretending to be something you are not. It is about realizing that you already are what you seek to become. What you call your future self already exists. It is not distant, it is accessible. But it can only emerge when you cease identifying with your current limitations and begin to act in accordance with the truth that your desire is already fulfilled. In other words, assume it's already done. This is where most fall short. They continue to identify with the state of longing. They say, I want wealth, but live in a state of lack. They say, I want love, but continue to assume themselves unworthy. They say, I want success, but carry the identity of one who fails. For the law does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you are. If you wish to see change, you must become that which you see. And so, if you desire to be healthy, you must act as if health is already yours. You must feel the ease in your body, imagine the vitality, and assume the energy is flowing freely through every cell. If you desire to be wealthy, you must walk as one who already possesses wealth, not through extravagant gestures, but through a quiet confidence, a subtle knowing, a deep peace that says, I have all I need. This is how you assume the state. It is inward. It is silent. It is sacred. When you live in the end, you collapse the delay. There is no waiting for the world to change because the world has no choice but to follow you. You stop reacting and you begin creating, not by will, but by being. And your being is shaped by your assumptions. Every act, every thought, every feeling is the outpicturing of an inner state. When you shift the state, the behavior changes. The world bends to accommodate the new identity. Now, this is not to say you must act irrationally or ignore the world entirely. It means you must not be fooled by appearances. Your senses will argue with you. They will scream that nothing has changed. But remember, the unseen precedes the seen. The seed germinates underground before it breaks through the soil. So too must your new state exist in imagination before it appears in form. And when you remain faithful to that inner vision, when you do not allow the external to distract you, you water the seed until it blossoms into manifestation. Many ask, but how long must I assume? How long must I live in the end before it comes? And I say, you assume until assumption becomes natural. You persist until the feeling of the wish fulfilled becomes more real than the facts you see. For the facts are but shadows. They are echoes of previous beliefs. They have no creative power. They are old news. But imagination rightly used is the birthplace of the new. Feel it real, that is the command. To feel it real is to ignite the law. You do not wait for evidence, you supply it within. You generate the experience internally, and the outer must follow. Just as your reflection cannot smile until you smile, the world cannot echo a change you have not first made within. And so you are called to act not from habit, but from vision, not from memory, but from assumption. Do not ask what is reasonable. Ask what is desired, and then live from that. For what is possible for you is determined not by conditions, but by your assumptions of self. I say to you now, walk through your world as if this time is already yours. No more hoping, no more someday. It is now. It is done. Every action you take, let it be born from that inner conviction. Every word you speak, let it carry the tone of fulfillment. Every emotion you entertain, let it match the joy of already being where you wish to be. The reason this works is simple. You are the operant power. You are not at the mercy of events. You are their author. And you write the script not through effort, but through identity. When you embody the state of the fulfilled desire, you generate the cause and the world reacts accordingly. That is how you act as if, by changing your inner world first and letting the outer follow in time. Let the inner be your reality. Let the assumption become your residence. Live in the end, not for show, not for performance, but because you know it is done. Feel it until it feels natural, and when it does, nothing in the world can stop its arrival. The truth of your life is hidden not in the world you see, but in the world you assume. If you would only pause and examine your reactions, your inner conversations, your silent beliefs, you will find the cause of every condition. The law is simple, as within, so without. And therefore your task is not to rearrange the external, but to observe and reshape the inner man. The self you are being now is planting the seed of what you will experience next. This is why you must act as if the desire is already yours, not in pretense, but in truth. You are not becoming, you are remembering. What you call future is simply a state already existing, waiting for you to occupy it through assumption. Many long for change, but remain trapped in their current state because they continue to feel like someone waiting. They walk through the world with their attention fixed on appearances, and so their inner state never shifts. But the law does not bend to what appears. It bends to what is accepted. And to accept means to feel the reality of the unseen until it overrides the evidence of the senses. You may say, but I do not see it yet. And I say, that is precisely why it has not come. You are still waiting, still expecting something to happen. But the truth is, it only happens when you stop waiting and begin being. To act as if means you become the one who already possesses the thing longed for. You embody the energy, the emotion, the behavior, the attitude of the fulfilled version of you. You do not visit it briefly. You live in it, breathe in it, move in it, and think from it. And when you do, the outer world must reflect the inner change, for there is no other cause. Reality is nothing more than the hardened shadow of imagination. And imagination, when believed in, takes root and produces form. Now, understand this. You are not acting to deceive anyone. You are not attempting to trick life. You are aligning with the spiritual truth that creation is finished. Every possible state already exists. There is no future creation, only future selection. And that selection takes place in consciousness. When you act as if it is already done, you are stepping into that already created version of self. You are not forcing reality. You are aligning with it. You are tuning your inner frequency to the station of your desire and trusting that what is yours cannot be kept from you. You cannot feel lack and receive abundance. You cannot live in resentment and find love. You cannot carry a self-image of failure and be met with success. The law is exact. The state you occupy is the reality you create. And the fastest way to change state is not to fight the old, but to fully assume the new. Feel it, accept it, be it. When you assume the new state, there may be no immediate outer change. The world may look exactly the same. But if you remain loyal to the feeling, loyal to the inner knowing that it is done, you will find the world reshaping itself in time to match your new inner identity. The temptation will be to look for signs, to check if it's working. But to check is to doubt, and to doubt is to delay. You must live now as if the thing is already so. That is faith. That is power. This is why inner conversations are so important. What are you saying to yourself throughout the day? Are you rehearsing old failures? Are you dwelling in resentment, fear, or unworthiness? Then do not be surprised when life echoes those vibrations. Your inner dialogue is the script the world follows. Change the conversation and you change the scene. Begin to talk to yourself as the one who already is, already has, already knows. Speak in imagination the words that match your fulfilled state. Say to yourself, I am successful. I am chosen. I am secure. I am loved. And do not simply say it. Feel it. Let it become the atmosphere of your mind. The mistake is to wait for evidence before you believe. But belief is the cause. Feeling is the fuse. You do not need confirmation. You need persistence. If you would persist in the assumption, even in the face of contradiction, you would see mountains move. But most abandon the new state too soon. They step into the state briefly, feel the joy, but then look around and see nothing has changed. And so they fall back into the old self. But the old self has no power to bring the new. You must be born anew, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The state of the wish fulfilled is not a fantasy. It is the only creative act. It is not indulgence. It is law. And once you occupy the new state, your world must yield to it. If you remain in the consciousness of already having, already being, then the world has no choice but to confirm it. The outer cannot resist the inner command. That is why you must no longer wait. Waiting is the death of desire. You must declare now, this is mine, not someday, now. Feel it, walk in it, rest in it, assume it again and again, until the line between imagination and reality dissolves, until it feels natural, for that is the secret. What feels natural becomes real. No longer identify with the old man, no longer repeat the story of lack or failure, no longer beg the world to give you what you have not yet given yourself. You are the source. You are the power. And what you assume yourself to be, persistently, consistently, emotionally, is what your world will reflect. That is the law. That is how you act, as if this time is already yours. The moment you accept a new belief about yourself, the world begins its silent reordering to match it. It does not ask permission from the past. It does not wait for evidence or validation. It responds only to the inner movement of assumption. The law does not recognize whether the assumption is considered reasonable or not. It does not care if the world sees you as unworthy, undeserving, or incapable. The law only obeys one thing, your inner conviction of being. That is why acting as if must be done with full sincerity, with deep commitment to the inner state. It is not simply about thinking a new thought. It is about accepting a new identity. You see, you are always in the act of becoming. Every moment, through your attention, your self-concept, and your inner conversations, you are claiming a state. And that state is constantly producing effects in your outer life. So the real question is never, can I manifest this? The real question is, what am I assuming now? For the outer world is a mirror, not a creator. It shows you what you have inwardly accepted, whether knowingly or not. If you do not like what you see, do not argue with the reflection. Change the face that is being reflected. To act as if is to bypass all inner resistance and step directly into the creative act. It is not enough to wish. Wishing lacks power because it admits separation. To say, I wish I had it, is to admit you do not. But to say, I am it, or I have it, and to feel it with intensity, that is the seed of manifestation. That is the doorway through which all things come. You must become the one who already has, who already is, who already knows. And the moment you do, everything begins to change, not by force, but by law. Do not look to others for confirmation. They will often reflect your old assumptions until the new state has taken deep root. This is not failure. This is simply the lag between seed and harvest. Do not be discouraged. Stay faithful to your inner world. When you remain in the state of the wish fulfilled, long enough and deep enough, the old must fade. The world must conform. This is not optimism, it is spiritual law. Every person you meet, every situation you encounter is drawn into your experience by the nature of your state. If you occupy the state of lack, you will meet people who confirm that belief. If you dwell in the state of being unloved, life will bring you faces and voices that echo that vibration. But the reverse is also true. If you dare to act from the state of already being loved, already being abundant, already being secure, then the faces and voices must change. They must rise to meet the new script. This is why it is useless to try and fix people or circumstances. They are not the root, they are the result. To change the result, change the root, change the cause. And the cause is always your own wonderful inner state. You cannot plant a seed of one kind and harvest another. Likewise, you cannot dwell in the assumption of failure and reap success. You cannot hold on to the feeling of being overlooked and suddenly be recognized. It is against the law. But if you change the assumption, the result must change. You are never truly waiting on the world. You are only ever waiting on yourself to accept a new identity. And that acceptance is demonstrated through assumption. Do not say, I will be anything. Say, I am, and then act from that place. Not outwardly to convince others, but inwardly to align with the state. Let your imagination become more vivid than your current surroundings. Let it feel so natural, so familiar that your mind accepts it as reality. And when that happens, reality will bend. Let the world call it delusion if it must. Let the facts resist. Let appearances deny. Do not argue. Do not fight. Remain inwardly faithful to the unseen. This is the highest discipline, to keep the inner state steady, even when all evidence contradicts it. This is true power, not to react, but to remain unmoved, not to wish for change, but to embody it. So what does it look like to act as if? It means waking each day and choosing to dwell in the state you have claimed. It means speaking with the confidence of one who has already succeeded. It means blessing your life with gratitude, not for what might come, but for what already is in spirit. It means assuming that those around you already see you as the person you have become. And when you are tempted to doubt, to say nothing is happening, you return inward and you assume again. You do not allow appearances to shape the truth. You do not abandon your harvest halfway through the planting. You trust the seed and you water it with feeling. The only enemy is your own divided mind. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways because he tries to serve two states at once. He wants the new but identifies with the old. He affirms success but feels like a failure. He visualizes love but assumes rejection. And so the world remains confused, chaotic, unsure. But the moment you unify your mind, the moment you accept your desire as done, the world straightens itself. It falls into place like iron to a magnet. It cannot do otherwise. This is the practice, this is the art, to hold a feeling long enough, steady enough, that it becomes your new normal, that it no longer feels like acting, it feels like remembering. For in truth, you are not becoming, you are revealing. You are uncovering the self that always was, always will be, and always had what you now desire. Your job is simple. Select the state. Enter it with feeling. Remain there regardless of what the senses say. And trust that the outer will echo the inner in due time. That is how you act as if. That is how you make this time yours. The greatest error most people make is believing they must first see results before they accept the change within themselves. They wait for proof before belief, evidence before assumption. And yet all true transformation begins with assumption, long before the senses confirm it. This is why the principle of acting as if must be understood beyond surface imitation. It is not about pretending, performing, or manipulating the world. It is about becoming inwardly aligned with a state so consistently, so vividly, that the outer world is compelled to respond. When you imagine with feeling that something is already true, you impress it upon your subconscious mind. That impression becomes the pattern, and from it all future experiences unfold. This inner act is silent. It requires no announcement to the world. No one needs to know what you are doing. But your faithfulness to the unseen will be witnessed through the gradual reorganization of external facts. These changes may begin subtly. New conversations, new opportunities, a shift in how people respond to you. But they are not random. They are the results of a new vibration you have accepted within. To act as if is not merely to think positively or visualize for a few moments. It is to completely relocate your sense of identity to the place where your desire is already fulfilled. The mind may rebel. It may say, but that's not how things are. It may point to your bank account, your relationships, your body, and say, look at the facts. And yet facts are not final. They are the outpicturing of old states. They are echoes, not causes. You must remember that the outer is always trailing behind the inner. If you want the outer to change, the inner must change first. And it must change with total commitment. The beauty of this law is that it demands no external permission. You don't need someone else to approve of your change. You don't need conditions to be ideal. The only requirement is that you accept the new state and remain in it. And this remaining is not passive. It is deeply intentional. It means that every time doubt arises, you return to the feeling of already having. Every time fear whispers that you are still the same, you quiet it with the certainty of your assumption. You are not trying to make something happen. You're accepting that it has already happened in the unseen, and you live from that truth. There is great power in living as though the change has already occurred. When you do this, you begin to speak differently, move differently, expect differently. Your entire posture, mentally and emotionally, shifts. And without effort, the world takes notice. You are no longer operating from the energy of lack or striving. You are acting from fulfillment. This is why assumption creates, because it changes you. And when you are changed inwardly, everything around you must conform to match the new structure of your being. This is where many lose their way. They treat imagination like a tool to get something, rather than the place from which everything flows. They visualize briefly, but return to worry. They affirm once, but then complain the rest of the day. They act as if for a few moments, but live the rest of their time in reaction. And so the results are inconsistent. It is not enough to dip into the state. You must dwell in it. You must make it your home. You must live there mentally before you can ever live there physically. This dwelling is not difficult. It requires no special knowledge. It simply asks for sincerity. It asks that you be more loyal to your vision than to your past, that you be more faithful to the inner knowing than to what the senses scream, that you prioritize your imagination above your memory. For memory will bind you to what was. Imagination sets you free into what can be. Every time you choose to act from the place of already having, whether in thought, speech, or feeling, you are sowing the seed of manifestation. And that seed must produce after its kind. You do not need to force it to grow. You simply need to keep your attention fixed on the state you have claimed. You need to refuse to water the weeds of doubt and instead nourish the feeling of certainty. And yes, there will be moments when nothing seems to happen, when the world appears still, unmoved by your inner shift. These moments are the most crucial, for they are the tests of your persistence. Will you abandon the new state because the outer is slow to reflect it? Or will you remain unmoved, knowing that all things are gestating in the unseen? Faith is persistence under silence. Belief is loyalty to the invisible. To act as if is not a strategy, it is a lifestyle. It is the art of walking through life from a place of already having. When you want love, become the one who is already loved. When you want success, feel the ease of already succeeding. When you desire health, live from the freedom of already being whole. And when you are tempted to say, it's not here yet, you gently return to your inner sanctuary and you say, but it is, I have already received. This is not delusion, it is direction. It is spiritual precision. It is not pretending, it is proclaiming the truth of what is becoming. For every desire is the promise of its own fulfillment. You would not even want it if it were not possible, and you would not imagine it unless it already existed as a state within. The moment you act as if it is yours, you begin to move in harmony with that state, and it begins to move toward you. So do not delay your good by waiting for permission. Do not stall your blessing by needing signs. You are the sign. You are the cause. You are the channel through which the unseen becomes seen. And when you act as if this time is already yours, the time collapses, the veil lifts, and the reality emerges. Everything that now surrounds you is the echo of a former state. If you wish to know what you have been assuming, look at your life, your relationships, your finances, your health. These are not random. They are reflections. Mirrors showing you what you've accepted inwardly as true. If you want to change the reflection, you must change what stands before the mirror. There is no other course. To act as if this time is already yours is to take conscious control of the seed you are planting. There is a subtle yet powerful difference between trying to manifest something and living from the feeling that it already is. Trying still contains effort, distance, doubt. Living from the feeling has no struggle in it. It is rest. It is inner knowing. The one who acts from assumption does not ask, when will it come, because he knows it has already been received in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. If it is true in the unseen, it must become true in the seen. Imagination is the creative act. It is not a passive thing. It is spiritual activity. It is through imagination that you rearrange your world, not by force, not by manipulation, but by assumption. Your inner state is a vibrational command. Every thought wrapped in emotion, every scene felt as real, every inner conversation repeated with belief. These are the tools with which you build your reality. You are not hoping life will change. You are deciding who you are, and the world is simply responding. So many continue to sabotage themselves with split energy. They say one thing but feel another. They declare abundance while carrying the emotion of scarcity. They visualize love and companionship while internally feeling abandoned and forgotten. But the law is not deceived. The outer cannot override the inner. It only amplifies it. If you wish for your world to reflect wholeness, then you must begin to feel whole within. You must stop reaching and start residing. This is where inner authority is developed. You become the one who no longer reacts to appearances, who no longer waits for proof, who no longer needs circumstances to agree. You choose your state deliberately and then walk in it. You act as if the world has already bowed to your desire, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with spiritual law. You no longer look for signs. You become the sign. You no longer plead for manifestation. You become the version of yourself who already has it. And this inner shift does something miraculous. It releases resistance. When you act as if it's already yours, the desperation vanishes, the doubt dissolves, the old stories begin to lose their power. You no longer engage in internal conflict. There is nothing to fight for when you already know it is done. And when you live from this space of completion, you open the door for the manifestation to move quickly, quietly, and often in ways the mind could never have predicted. Let this be clear. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the only doorway, not logic, not waiting, not hard work. The world has told you that you must earn everything, that things take time, that only through pain can you find reward. But the law does not require suffering. It requires belief. It requires that you dwell in the end, that you claim it inwardly, that you allow the unseen to feel more real than what your eyes show you. And that is what acting as if truly means. You choose to let the internal experience be more powerful than the external one. To do this, you must withdraw your attention from the problem and place it entirely on the solution. You must stop talking about the lack, the delay, the difficulty. You must starve those states of your focus. For what you feed with attention, you keep alive. What you ignore dissolves. Attention is the substance of reality. Where your attention goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, matter must follow. So focus on what you desire, not to chase it, but to claim it. When you begin to truly act from the state of already having, you speak less of your desires and more from your desires. You no longer ask, when will it be mine? But instead, how would I move now that it is mine? The shift is subtle, but it changes everything, because you are no longer aligning with a version of yourself who wants. You are aligning with the version of yourself who already possesses. And that self is already within you. You do not need to become someone new. You only need to remove the veil. That is why your assumption is so powerful. It selects the version of you that already exists in the infinite. There are infinite realities, infinite versions of you playing out every possible scenario. When you assume, you are tuning into the one you prefer, and when you remain tuned to that frequency, the version of reality matching it must appear. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be consistent. When the old thoughts arise, gently return to your chosen state. When fear whispers, do not argue, assume. When the past tries to drag you back, look forward in imagination and walk boldly into the scene of your desire fulfilled. This is your practice. This is your power. To persist in the inner experience until it becomes your outer world. The key is emotional acceptance. If you can feel it real, if you can feel it as though it's done, then you are there. There is no distance between you and your desire. When you feel it in your body, when you allow it to become your natural state, The goal is not to visualize harder or speak affirmations louder. The goal is to become so inwardly certain that you move through the world as if there's nothing to question. That is true, acting as if. That is the creative act. And from that place, manifestation is inevitable. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. You entered this state. You became it. And the outer, being powerless to resist your conviction, responded accordingly. To live from the end is to reject all conditions that deny your inner truth. It is to stand firm in the unseen when all around you says otherwise. The world is not the master, it is the servant. The world reflects, it responds. It obeys the command of your inner assumption. If you wish to lead a life of certainty, of beauty, of power, you must learn to act from the fulfilled state, not toward it. When you act from the wish fulfilled, you are no longer trying to become. You are being. And being is the only true cause in this universe. There is no process outside of consciousness. Everything begins and ends in the realm of assumption. The question is never whether it is possible, but whether you are willing to occupy the state that implies it's already done. If the answer is yes, then your manifestation is no longer a matter of effort, but of alignment. You must now live in the feeling of the answered prayer. You must imagine what it feels like to no longer need it, because it is already yours. This is not about forcing your imagination to do something unnatural. It is about returning to your natural creative power. As children, we all knew how to live from imagination. We played, we dreamed, we felt our desires real without question. But as we grew, we were taught to limit our minds, to depend only on facts, to surrender to so-called logic. Yet the creative force has never changed. The law has not weakened. It is still true today that what you feel yourself to be, you become. And the fastest way to become is to assume the state right now. The mind will resist. It will ask, but how? And the answer to how is always through state. When you occupy the right state, the bridge of incidents will unfold naturally. The how is not your concern. It is not your role to organize people, places, and circumstances. Your only work is internal, to maintain the state, to dwell in the feeling, to persist in the assumption that it is done. The rest is not your job. It is taken care of by a deeper law than intellect can explain. When you act as if this time is already yours, you transcend time itself. You collapse the illusion of waiting. You move beyond delay. Time is only the measure of assumption taking root. It is not your enemy. It is your servant. It stretches or shortens itself according to your inner conviction. And when you live from the place of it already being done, time no longer rules you. You begin to notice how quickly things come, how effortlessly they appear, how precisely the world shapes itself to your belief. But to maintain this, you must develop the habit of feeling it real, even in silence, even when no one else sees it. You must become the silent builder of your world. The world may say you are foolish. It may point to your conditions and laugh, but the wise one ignores appearances and builds in imagination. He does not ask the outer world to agree. He simply lives from the inner world until the outer must comply, and it always does. Eventually, the inner truth becomes the outer fact. That is the order of creation. This means you must train yourself to think from the desire, not of it. When you think of something, you place it at a distance. When you think from it, you claim it as yours. You must rise into the atmosphere of already being what you want to be, not through effort, but through the art of selection. You select the state, you feel the mood of it. You live the day as if that reality is the only one that exists. You speak its language, walk its posture, and think its thoughts. And as you do, the gap between you and the desire disappears. Now hear this well. Repetition is creation. The first time you enter a new state, it may feel unfamiliar. It may feel like pretending, but if you return to it again and again, it becomes familiar. It becomes natural, and what feels natural will harden into fact. You do not need to believe perfectly. You only need to persist. You must return to the state again and again, like returning to a home until your being accepts it without resistance. This is why acting as if works. It wears down the old identity. It replaces it with the new, and once the new is dominant, it must outpicture itself. Do not fear the old thoughts when they arise. They are shadows. They are memories of a former self. Simply notice them and return to your chosen state. Say within yourself, that is no longer me. Then move again into the assumption that it is done. Speak to yourself with authority. Direct your attention with intention. You are not a victim of mental habits. You are the creator of them. And each time you assume the fulfilled state, you are carving a new groove in consciousness. You are establishing a new identity. And identity is destiny. So ask yourself often, how would I feel if it were already true? What would I do? What would I expect? And then do it. Feel it. Live it. Let that feeling be your guide. Let that inner movement become the new foundation. Do not wait for conditions to change before you change within. Change within, and conditions will follow. When you fully understand this, you are free. Free from fear, from struggle, from the illusion of waiting, because you no longer hope, you no longer wish, you are. And from that being, all things flow. That is what it means to act as if. It is not an act of desperation, it is an act of faith. It is the still, quiet knowing that all you seek is already yours, that the version of you who has it already lives within you, and your only task is to awaken to that version, assume it boldly, and let the world rise to meet it. There is no reality outside of what you accept as true in consciousness. Every fact you currently face, every relationship you experience, every condition you call real is simply the crystallization of a former belief. The law of assumption does not work for some and not for others. It works for all, always without exception. The difference lies not in whether the law is active, but whether the individual is conscious of how they are using it. When you act as if something is already true, you align yourself with its frequency, and through that alignment, the outer must mirror the inner. It is not a question of morality, worthiness, or logic. It is a question of assumption. This time is already yours the moment you claim it, but not in words alone, through feeling. Words are only powerful when they carry the conviction of being. And being is not produced by effort, but by surrender to a new self-image. When you surrender to the version of you who already has what you desire, when you stop seeking and begin being, you cross the threshold between wanting and having. And once you cross that threshold in imagination, your world begins to rearrange itself. Quietly, precisely, and with a wisdom far beyond your understanding. To act as if is to abandon the identity of waiting. It is to live from the state of fulfillment, not toward it. This requires a level of honesty with yourself that most avoid. For it is easier to say, I will one day have, than to declare, I now am. The latter requires responsibility. It requires you to step into a new frequency of thought, speech, and emotion. It asks you to die to the old self, the one who lacked, who struggled, who hoped, and in that death a new version is born, one who knows, who rests, who creates. Imagination is the channel through which you receive and occupy this new identity. You do not force it. You do not negotiate with it. You select it and you wear it like a garment. And the longer you wear it, the more it conforms to your body, your mind, your world. You stop needing others to see it. You no longer chase after validation. You no longer ask, is this working? You live quietly in the knowing that it has already worked. For the inner shift has taken place, and the outer must respond. If you say you are rich and continue to fear your bills, you are not rich. You are begging in thought while declaring in word. The law does not respond to contradictions, responds to consistency. You must feel what it means to be provided for before the provision appears. If you say you are loved and continue to feel forgotten, then love cannot show up, for you are not in the state to receive it. But if you act as if you are already chosen, already valued, already seen, life brings the people and circumstances to prove it, not because they created your state, but because they reflected it. Every act of assumption reshapes the subconscious mind. And the subconscious, once impressed, never forgets. It moves with divine intelligence to orchestrate what you have accepted as true. There are no exceptions. Even your smallest inner shift sets into motion a chain of unseen events that ripple outward. The question is whether you remain in the new state long enough for the ripples to reach your conscious awareness. Most people shift too quickly. They plant a seed, dig it up in doubt, and then declare that the soil is broken. But the soil is never broken. The impatience is. The faith is. The assumption is not sustained long enough to bear fruit. If you truly want to see change, you must live from the new story, even when nothing appears different. Especially then, because that is when your creative power is tested. Not when things are going well, but when everything contradicts your assumption. That is when the law is either abandoned or obeyed. If you persist in the assumption of already having, the world must eventually bend. And once it bends, the old world disappears, not because it was destroyed, but because it was no longer supported. What you sustain in imagination becomes what you sustain in life. The version of you that walks in success, that breathes in joy, that radiates love, that version already exists. And when you act as if you are that version, you join the timeline where that version lives. The body responds, the voice changes, the energy shifts, and others, without knowing why, respond differently to you. Not because they've changed, but because you have. You have stepped into a new vibration, and reality is merely echoing the tone you now carry. To remain in this new state, repetition is essential. Not mechanical repetition, but emotional resonance. You must return to the state of the wish fulfilled, not as a task, but as a dwelling. It becomes your natural habitat, your inner home. You visit it when you wake, when you walk, when you fall asleep. You carry it in silence. You speak to yourself as one who already is. You see the world through the eyes of already having. And slowly, but inevitably, the woes of your life begin to reshape themselves around your new center. This is not fantasy. This is structure. This is law. There is nothing more real than what you assume. Every movement, every meeting, every chance encounter is being drawn to you by the frequency you maintain. And if you don't like what you see, you do not need to fight the circumstances. You simply select a new assumption. You move to a new state. And you persist in that state until the outer must obey. Your power is not in changing the world. Your power is in changing your self-concept. The world will take care of itself once you do. The moment you begin to act as if this time is already yours, you set yourself apart from the masses who wait, who wish, who wonder. You become the one who knows, who lives from truth, who creates not by force, but by being. There comes a moment when you must stop asking, stop seeking, stop doubting, and start being. To act as if this time is already yours is to accept that creation is finished, that what you desire already exists in another dimension of reality, and that the only missing element is your alignment with it. That alignment is not achieved through struggle. It is achieved through assumption. It is achieved through emotional conviction. It is achieved by moving your identity to the place where your desire already is. In that moment, the journey ends and expression begins. You are not calling your future to you. You are stepping into it. All things are already here, vibrating on different frequencies. Lack exists, so does abundance. Loneliness exists, so does love. You do not create them, you choose them. You choose by what you consistently feel to be true about yourself. Every emotional reaction, every inner dialogue, every silent belief is part of your selection. And the selection becomes your script. It determines who you are in this story called life. If you want to live a different scene, you must choose a different character. And to choose that character, you must assume their state. To assume a state is to breathe from it, think from it, walk from it. You become the character in your own inner play. And by doing so, the stage of the world must be rebuilt to suit the role. Do not think this is symbolic. It is literal. The outer world must match the inner pattern. And the pattern is impressed not by will, but by repetition of feeling. It is sustained imagination that causes the shift, not a fleeting thought, not a brief visualization, but a continual resting in the truth that your desire is already fulfilled. Now understand this, you are not sustaining the state to make it happen, you are sustaining the state because it has already happened. There is a sacred difference. One seeks, the other knows. One waits, the other walks. One hopes, the other lives. And that difference is everything. It is the dividing line between stagnation and transformation. When you act as if, you move from hoping for a new life to accepting it as your present reality, invisible though it may be. And yes, the world will try to shake your certainty. It will offer you old mirrors, old patterns, old voices. It will ask, who do you think you are? And your answer must be silent, unshakable. I am already what I desire to be, not in defiance, not in arrogance, but in truth, in spiritual precision, in quiet faith. You do not argue with the old world. You outgrow it. You no longer invest energy in what was. You invest all your energy into what is becoming. Every time you feel the pull to return to your former identity, you pause. You close your eyes. You return to the state of the wish fulfilled. You enter the scene again. You feel the satisfaction again. You assume again. And as you do, the past loses its grip. You are training yourself to remain in the vibration of your chosen reality. You are becoming the version of yourself who already has, already is, already knows. And in doing so, you leave behind the version who lacked, who waited, who wondered. The key is not intensity, but consistency. You do not need to strain. You need only to return again and again until the state becomes natural, until it becomes your automatic way of being. Then without effort, your thoughts match the state. Your emotions follow, your body aligns, your environment responds. People begin to reflect your new identity, not because they are changed, but because you are. The inner world leads, the outer follows. And this must be remembered. Your desire is not something outside of you. It is a state within you. And the feeling of the desire fulfilled is the path to it. If you feel the end, you move the invisible gears of reality. It is not the mechanics of the world that deliver your dream. It is the power of your consciousness. When you feel it real, you access a dimension where the thing already exists. And from that place, you call it into form. Do not seek shortcuts. There are none. There is only the path of inner conviction. And though that path may be invisible to others, it is always known to the one who walks it. You know when you are in the state of having. It feels complete, it feels quiet, it feels inevitable. It no longer matters whether others see it, whether the world confirms it. You have confirmed it in imagination. And that confirmation is the only requirement. Begin now to act from the version of yourself who no longer needs to question. How do they think? How do they carry themselves? What do they no longer worry about? Enter that state, not for a minute, but as a decision. Live from it, eat from it, work from it, sleep from it. Let it guide your choices, your tone, your vision. And when the old self arises, and it will, smile. Do not fight it. Do not resist it. Simply turn your attention inward again and rest in the truth of the new. You are not trying to force reality. You are living in harmony with a higher version of it. And this harmony has a sound. It is the sound of I am. When you declare it and feel it as truth, you rewrite the script. And the script must play out exactly as you have assumed. This is the simplicity and power of living as it is. So now, you have a choice. You can wait for the world to give you permission, or you can claim that this time is already yours. And if you do, if you truly act as if with inner sincerity and unwavering feeling, the world will echo back in perfect measure what you have believed. You do not need time, you do not need approval, you do not need more evidence. You only need to be bold enough to accept here and now that you are already what you long to become. that the state you seek is not ahead of you. It is within you, awaiting your recognition. And that recognition, when deeply felt, becomes creation. The world will never change until you do. Circumstances will never yield until you step into a higher assumption. But the moment you do, genuinely, consistently, with feeling, the change is set in motion. It begins invisibly, as all things do, and then moves through form, people, places, and events to bring itself into visibility. You are not here to chase. You are not here to wait. You are here to remember who you are and then walk as that remembered self. So take up the identity of fulfillment. Do not wish for it. Do not search for it. Be it. Wear it like your own skin. Speak from it. Think from it. Feel from it. And every cell of your being will begin to harmonize with the truth you've claimed. The world will follow because it must. It is law. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in it, even if no one believes, even if nothing seems to change. Because you are not waiting for it to become true. You are living from the truth that it already is. You are not becoming. You already are. Assume it now. Act as if this time is already yours.